I've got a bad feeling. It's too quiet. I don't like this.
Ugh, Louis, stop being such a freak. Going to Woodstock, man. There's no anything bad's gonna happen there.
Uh, I, I've been hearing stories about people who disappeared on roads like this. Weird ones. People go missing in places like this all the time.
Aha, okay, there's a truck, see? And maybe they'll offer us a ride. Hey, yoo-hoo! Right here! Thanks for the lift, ma'am.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. If it weren't for you, we'd be stuck out here for another 4 hours.
So where are you headed?
On this very night, 10 years ago, along this same stretch of road, in a dense fog, just like this, I saw the worst accident I ever seen. There was this sound.
This sounds vaguely familiar.
Like a garbage truck dropped off the Empire State Building.
Luis, I think we should ask for a briefing to hop out.
And when they finally pulled the driver's body from the twisted, burning wreck, it looked like this. Yes, sir. That was the worst accident I ever seen.
We get off right here at this diner.
Yeah, thanks for the lift.
Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
What the hell was that?
I don't know. Well, let's go inside the diner. I wonder if they have warm milk and some garlic bread. I need something yummy for my tummy. Large Marge sent us.
Did you say Large Marge?
Yeah, she just dropped us off.
That's impossible. Large Marge? She's... It was 10 years ago, on a night just like tonight. Why, tonight's the anniversary. Worst accident I ever seen.
That means the Large Marge we were driving with was,
You know what? I actually don't feel like eating here.
Oh, and yes, make sure the garlic bread is extra garlicky.
Tim!
What? Those scary stories gave me an appetite.
Look, they have a picture of Large Marge.
Oof. Man, she's one ugly bitch. Oh, hey, they have a little note card here with information about her. In memory of Large Marge, a woman that loved picking up hitchhikers. Her two cats, Lorena and Torred, and a nice whiskey soda. For more information on her life, stop by the Itty Bitty Horror souvenir shop to learn her full story.
Will you please stop talking with your mouth full? And also, should we go?
Maybe we can learn why we shouldn't go hitchhiking.
Yeah, agreed. Tim,
Luis!
how do you feel about Large Marge giving us a ride?
I feel like it was a good thing that we got off easy because Large Marge can get a can be a little threatening. I don't know.
Yeah, she scared us earlier, so
I know.
We're one of the lucky ones. We did not make it to the title of the podcast or this episode, which is Vanishing Hitchhikers. We survived.
We did. We made it.
Yes. Welcome to the Itty Bitty Horror Podcast with Luis and Tim. In this podcast, we discuss everything from horror movies to the scariest tales out there with a touch of humor. Tim, in today's episode, we're going to be discussing hitchhikers that have gone missing. Have you ever gone missing as a hitchhiker? I'm just kidding. Have you or anyone you know, have you all ever gone hitchhiking?
No, I can safely say that I did not grow up in the 1970s, so I never went hitchhiking in my life, and never even considered going, I don't think.
Yeah, it's funny because you know, later on we're gonna have a little bit of a conversation with one of my friends, Asia, and she has actually gone hitchhiking in Europe, which is pretty wild because you hear the stories about backpacking and hostels, like the movie
Yeah, right.
Hostel, etc. So like I immediately think like, oh yeah, this is just uh, a dangerous situation that you're putting yourself into. But like when I was
Yeah.
talking with her before the episode, she was telling me that no, it's actually different. It's so much fun, and people really, really like enjoy having conversations. And I'm thinking like maybe you're one of the few ones, but maybe it's an American thing where it turns really deadly. Maybe not actually. It does happen all over the world. But
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, too, it probably, I mean, like anything, probably most times people hitchhiked didn't result in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
that's obviously probably not the case because then people wouldn't have kept doing it for, a while. So I feel like the movies kind of made everyone stop doing it. And maybe there were like one or two, I don't know, famous news stories where people were like, oh, okay, let's never do that again, kind
Yeah,
of
and we're
thing.
going to be covering some of these famous stories. I
Oh,
wonder, like, okay, let's say you had to pick between hitchhiking on a freeway or hitchhiking in a dirt road, on a dirt road, excuse me. Which one would you pick? You gun to your balls.
gun to my balls. Let me
Yeah.
think about this. Well, I mean, can't a freeway be on a dirt, like in a dirt? Like, do you just mean like a freeway in a normal like part of the city, and then a dirt road in like someplace really like off the beaten path?
I
That's
mean,
what
like
you
a
mean, right?
freeway, like between major cities. So it's like, it's still going to be long stretches of road of nothing in between, but at least it's potentially a freeway where there's like, you run into small
Yeah.
cities and whatnot. Whereas a dirt road, it might be a little more secluded, but nicer view as you're getting
Yeah.
killed.
Good point. I do like a nice view when I'm getting killed. I'm gonna say, okay, I will actually say freeway.
Yeah. What's your reasoning?
Well, just like you said, because it's in a place where people can see me, so I feel like the person would be less likely to have like nefarious intentions. I don't know.
Yeah, there's more people traveling on a freeway.
Yeah.
So if for whatever reason you get knocked out and you get put in the trunk of a car, you could potentially like push out the little uh rear whatever they're called, the lights, and stick out your hand and be like, yoo-hoo, I need help.
Yeah. Yoo-hoo. That's what I'm always doing.
Yeah. Well,
Well, can I
I
ask
once
you a question?
yeah, go ahead.
If you were going to hitchhike, would you stick your leg out with like a high heel and some fishnets and say, yoo-hoo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is that how you would hitchhike?
Oh yeah. Yeah, of course. I'd be out in the street. I'd be like, excuse me, let the master show you how it's done. And I'm with a group of friends and we're all like stranded in the middle of,
Yeah.
580
Middle
or
of
whatever.
nowhere. Sure.
Although
You
a
push them
freeway,
all aside.
on a highway, definitely you can't be on a ramp. It has to be like on the side of a road. Like I'm thinking of freeway like Vegas, like the desert and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would stick out my leg and I would have like a Louboutin, type heel,
Oh,
red
nice.
bottoms. Yeah, and my little
Okay.
fishnet stockings. I'd be like, yoo-hoo, uh, come on, boys, it's time to hop on the Louis train. And then somebody would see me and they would step on the gas even harder and then like run me over and be like, get the fuck out of here, you. That's what would happen.
Oh, well, then see, it goes back to the moral of our story here, which is that hitchhiking can sometimes lead to disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know of any famous like hitchhiking ghost stories? I have one, but I don't
No,
know
I
if
don't
you've
know
heard of
any.
one. No?
Well, actually,
Mhm.
okay. I mean, I know the famous Twilight Zone episode, right? Which I feel like a lot of people
Okay.
remember.
Which is what?
Well, I mean, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen this. It's actually a really good episode. Very scary. But yeah, it's a Twilight Zone episode where this lady is she's driving along. I think she's driving from New York to LA or vice versa. She's in the middle of the country, basically in the middle of
Mhm.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And there's this hitchhiker that she keeps seeing again and again. And she starts to get really freaked out because she sees him at like every major
Yeah.
like intersection. She starts to realize like, how can he be catching up to me?
Yeah. I've heard of that. I think it was when I was researching this, I was looking for like more on the paranormal side versus like true crime.
Yeah.
And I did
Wait,
see that story.
don't you want to know how it ends?
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So basically, she sees him again and again, and then finally she decides that she's being chased, and she decides she's going to call home. This is such a classic Twilight Zone ending, but she decides she's going to call home, and then it's kind of like that scene with Joey and Friends, actually. But she calls home, and they say, "What? You're Marilyn, but Marilyn's been dead for a year." And then she's like, and then she realizes that the hitchhiker is in fact death personified, or the Grim Reaper, or whatever you want
But
to
if
say.
she's dead, how is she making a phone call to a live person?
Well, okay, it's I guess in this world, ghosts can kind of do that before they've realized that they're ghosts, and
They
then
can
of
run
course,
errands, kind of like the Sixth Sense. They can kind of just
yeah,
live their daily lives. Well, so the
yeah,
one I was going to tell you is kind of the opposite end of this exact same story, but it's the famous one that I've heard growing up. I remember when I went to this bar near my house, I was just asking
Mhm.
people with the very beginning of the podcast where it was more focused towards like real life ghost stories, which, kind of mentioned here on the podcast. But anyway,
Yeah.
and most people gave me some really cool stories, but there's this one lady, super sweet, bartender. And I was like, "Oh, do you have a ghost story?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I have one. It's so scary to happen to my friend." I'm like, "Oh, tell me. She said that her friend was driving down the road and he saw a lady in a white dress walking. And when he stopped and asked her, like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to this dance." So he's like, "Oh, well, I'm headed there too. Do you want to go?" And she's like, "Yes." So they go and they go dancing back and forth, whatever. And then he's like,
Wow.
yeah. And then when
They go to the dance.
they go to the dance with a stranger.
Oh,
And then when he
okay.
drops her off at home, she's like cold. So he gives her his jacket.
I'm with you.
Yeah, so she's wearing the jacket and they leave. It's like, "I'll pick it up tomorrow." And when he comes back the next day and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm here for Maria. She has my jacket." He goes, "Maria? Maria's been dead for 10 years."
Did that really that was a real ghost story?
Yes, and it's exactly the same story that Joey said, like when he was
Oh my
auditioning in
God.
Friends for like a movie
Yeah.
role.
That's
Um,
clearly Joey, when he's doing that, I feel like is also parodying like the Twilight Zone type endings.
oh no,
I
for
feel
sure.
like,
But what I
right?
thought was, yeah. But what I thought was funny is that this girl said that it happened to her friend. I'm like, girl, that's a famous cliche ghost story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
About
she's like, "Oh
hitchhikers.
no, I swear, my friend went to this dance with someone with a white dress." Like, okay, okay.
It's like, okay, if you say so.
Yeah.
So I invited my friend Chiva. Asia is a lover of horror films and X-Files. Tim, next time we actually get to hop on an episode together, we can all discuss X-Files because she is obsessed just like us.
Ugh,
And
love that show.
yeah, and she also has a PhD in material science and engineering. So this
Wow.
means that she is legit, Tim. She has
She's
a
our
PhD.
Scully.
She's our actual Scully.
Wow.
But aside from this, Asia definitely has a little bit of a wild side. She is one of the few people that I know that has actually gone hitchhiking. Let's take a listen to her story. Hello, Asia. Welcome to the Itty Bitty Horror Podcast. Yay!
Thank you, Luis. Happy to be here.
Yay, yes, of course. For our listeners, we are actually recording at a bar, and we will put this through filters to make sure that it, sounds a little cleaner with less background noise. But Asia, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know that we had talked a little bit about us doing something together, and for this episode, I thought it would be kind of cool to have you on because you actually do have experience with hitchhiking in general, and our listeners would love to know your stories.
Yeah, of course, some of it, some of experience with hitchhiking. I'm from Europe, Russia originally, but I traveled a lot through Europe, and it is more acceptable and less dangerous, I would say, in some places than in US.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd love to share some stories with you guys.
Yeah, so in this episode, we talk about hitchhikers that have vanished because, they get picked up by either a driver who has insidious plans or even vice versa. We have where the hitchhiker is actually the evildoer, you could say. But I kind of just want to learn a little bit more about your stories, and thank God that yours did not go the way of the overall episode, but I do want our listeners to hear from somebody firsthand in terms of their experience. So can you tell me, like you said, you went hitchhiking in Europe, in Iceland, and in the US. Can you tell me a little bit about Europe and I guess what some of the cultural norms are for hitchhiking in Europe and why you decided to do that?
Totally. First of all, yeah, I hitchhiked around Eastern Europe and like Southern Europe, if you can call it that way.
Yeah.
Like I did Georgia, Armenia, and my other experience was hitchhiking all over Eastern Europe through Poland, Ukraine, and and then I went to hitchhike in Iceland. And about the safety precautions, it doesn't matter where you are, the safety is first. Looking back, I was also kind of in my edgy era. I didn't do those safety precautions. However, I just want to point out some of the safety tips that maybe if you consider hitchhiking, communication with your loved ones, send them a text, hey, I'm like getting into this car. Even though you think, oh, no one will save me during like my car ride if something happens, you will be actually surprised about how prompt response is. So yeah, send them a message with like license plate, description of a driver, being in communication with them, to make your mind at ease at the same time, like as a real safety tips.
Yeah. So that's good to know because I wouldn't even have thought of that. I would have just been like, yay, somebody's giving me a ride. Let me just get in the truck.
Oh, yeah. You never know. And it's just regular safety tips. And, you know, as a gal, of course, there is a little more danger for like lonely gal to hitchhike.
Yeah.
But still, with proper safety precautions, with knowing the places where it's acceptable or not, I think you can make your trip work.
Great. So do you have any specific stories to share about hitchhiking in Europe or Iceland?
Absolutely. My favorite hitchhiking story is kind of example of how hitchhiking can expand your like worldview and horizon, because this is a person you've never met before. They have some information you don't have, and you can start a conversation about. And also they're from the country probably you're not from if you're hitchhiking abroad. So it's a good way to get an idea about the country you're at. And my story was at Georgia. If you're familiar with history of Soviet Union, obviously you know that Russia united a bunch of other countries which do not speak Russian and do not have the same customs as us, but they forced that, sorry to be political. But when Soviet Union fell, all these countries ended up being still Russian speaking, but trying to preserve their customs, trying to take back their identity. Georgia is one of them. Georgia has their own language, even though most Georgians speak Russian. When I used to travel to Georgia a lot and was trying to speak Russian, and I felt a lot of backlash, and I couldn't understand why. Because again, it was me in college, didn't know much, and that one hitchhiking story, I flagged. Essentially, I needed to cross the mountains in Georgia. There was no public transport there. It's kind of up to you to find a ride. So I found a ride with this truck driver. You know, like red flags, right? Like truck driver, lonely guy, like you're a girl getting into it. I stupidly did. Probably shouldn't have. But the guy was amazing, and he genuinely answered all my questions why Georgian folks of my age wouldn't speak back Russian to me. He educated me about history from his perspective, because again, I learned history only from Russian perspective as a Russian citizen. And it was such an educational and wonderful experience. It was great. He ended up, the border between Georgia and Russia is, well, first of all, politically a little, iffy. But second of all, the border lays on the mountains, and usually there are a lot of landslides and mudslides. I ended up being stuck for at least a day.
Jeez.
And this wonderful soul, stick with me. He like took me through customs, like took me through the border, and yeah, I ended up on the other side with more knowledge, more compassion, and just more understanding of the beautiful country of Georgia.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I didn't know that, obviously. I know that you also mentioned that you hitchhiked here in the US. So how is that different from when you went hitchhiking in Europe?
Yeah. First of all, in a lot of states, it's illegal, like literally illegal. Like the driver will get a fine. So lots of folks are very hesitant to pick up hitchhikers. However, it's a very big hiking and backpacking community in US. And a lot of people do what is called through hikes, meaning they start from one point, couple months passed, they end up in another point. Obviously, you cannot go this far distance without resupplying in some towns. And where there are those resupply points, I'll take an example of California. In Eastern Sierras, there's a lot of towns that are very close. If you look at Highway 395, there are a lot of towns that are really close to Sierras. And there are a lot of people, they're called trail angels. And they literally help out hikers who wanna hitchhike from this campsite or like from trailhead up in Sierras to a nearest town. And they usually don't charge for it, but it's always, polite thing to like give them some love in terms of money or like whatever you can, share, because it's a community, all those people are volunteers. But yeah, my point being, if you are a backpacker or like a traveler in US going through mountains of Appalachia, Sierras, Rockies, and you end up having trouble, I don't know how to get from campsite to nearest town, I don't have a car. Well, look for trail angels. They're usually up there, they will take you, and it's pretty safe, in my opinion. And, even in, I think in California it's illegal, but they still do it, and it's fine. So I would say in US, hitchhiking, at least for me, it's more like a way for travelers to get from a very remote locations to like nearest town.
Yeah. And do you have any last question I have for you is, do you have any stories you want to share of your hitchhiking adventures in the US?
Yeah, I made it alive. I did hike John Muir Trail, and 2 times I had to hitchhike from my campsite to a nearest town. One story that sticks up to me, I'm fine with hitchhiking. I think even if I'm in danger, I also have like self-defense things on me all the time. But when I was doing John Muir Trail, John Muir Trail is a trail through Sierras, 200 miles, like a couple of months, and I met some people, and this girl who ended up hiking with me, we had an agreement. She was terrified of hitchhiking, and I was like, I'm fine with it. But I was terrified of going on Mountain Whitney at night, and she was fine with it. So we decided to kind of exchange our, I'm fine with it, and we hitchhiked together from this. What was this town? Not Pine. It doesn't matter. We hitchhiked to this town, and it's a sleepy town on Highway 395. Independence. Got it. Independence. Independence is a really sleepy town in Highway 395, and we had to hitchhike there to just do our resupplies, buy some ramen to eat on the trail. Whatever. And the only thing we knew about the town of Independence is that there is this guy who makes pizza every Wednesday, distributes it among the Independence town people. So we hitched our ride, we got into a car, and we were like, we're so excited to be in this little town on Wednesday because we've heard there is a guy who makes pizza. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, this guy makes pizza. This guy also owns a winery. This guy also grows his own grapes. This guy is great. This guy is me. Yeah, we ended up hitching a ride with this guy.
Free pizza guy.
We did get a pizza. He makes it himself. Shout out. Yeah, that was a very wonderful story. And he's one of those trail angels. He helps out hikers for money and not for money, like for us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Azia, I want to thank you once again for sharing your stories with our listeners.
Thank you, Luis. Excited to be here.
So, Tim, what did you think of Azia's wild story?
Wow. I mean, that was kind of wild, but I mean, I don't know that I would be willing to do that. I would like the idea of backpacking through Europe, but I just don't think I would like fully hitchhike. I feel like I would try to just like, I don't know, take a train or
something. Yeah.
Bike. I don't know.
I've seen too many like horror movies like Hostel and whatnot. I'm so glad that Azia did not go through any of that. But
God, yeah, I know.
But I did want to mention one last thing before we get into the episode is that I mentioned it a little bit at the end of the previous episode, but my mom thought that I legitimately was going to go hitchhiking from San Francisco all the way to Portland, Oregon when I told her that I was going to go hiking. And she told my brother. My brother was freaked out, thinking that I was legit going to be out on freaking 580 or whatever, just sticking my thumb out in my little leg and like, yoo-hoo, pick me up.
I like that your mom thought hitchhiking and hiking were the same thing.
Yeah, I think she just got it confused. But yeah, exactly. For those of you who don't know anything about hitchhiking, maybe you're just like, what the hell is that? I've never heard of this. I'm a young little thing.
Is that?
I don't know.
Is that just hiking? What is that?
Exactly. But we're going to be doing a little bit of the background or history of hitchhiking as an activity. And then we're going to go into 3 stories of people who have either disappeared or something else, Tim. I don't want to spoil it.
What? Oh, what is it? Come on.
No, we'll find out right now.
Please tell me. I'm just a young little thing. Hitchhiking may once have been a symbol of freedom and the open road, but beneath that romantic image lies a story laced with danger, desperation, and growing paranoia. Long before cars roamed the highways, people stood on desolate roadsides hoping a stranger would stop, and that hope over time turned into something far more unpredictable. The practice, first documented in Tickner Edwards' 1910 book Lift Luck, began innocently enough, with Edwards recounting a 200-mile journey by wagon, horse, and the occasional automobile. But as the automotive age took hold and cars flooded American roads, so too did the drifters, loners, and those chasing not just escape, but something darker. Writer John Schlebecker called hitchhiking a product of the American automotive industry, but it soon became a product of something far more chaotic, human unpredictability. By the 1920s, thumbing a ride was no longer just a practical gesture, it was a gamble. The media began to take notice, glamorizing the practice while subtly hinting at the risks. A 1925 article in American Magazine described how a hitchhiker would, quote, stand at the edge of the road and point with his thumb in the direction he wishes to go, unquote. But what wasn't said is that neither driver nor rider could ever truly know what waited on the other side of that outstretched thumb. See, that's the other thing people forget too, is sometimes if you pick up a hitchhiker, then it's actually worse.
Yeah,
right?
The hitchhiker might be the psycho killer or something.
Yeah, like people are always assuming it's the person who's picking you up, but it's like, it might be the other way around. Hence Texas Chainsaw, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're picking somebody up, you now in 2025, you definitely have some loose screws in your head because like, honestly, I'm sorry, I don't have a car right now, but if I had a car, I wouldn't. Okay, Tim, I'm gonna tell you a real story. Sorry, listeners. Okay. Skip 5 minutes if you want. Well, it won't take 5 minutes, but
no,
one time,
please don't skip.
No, listen to this. But one time, this is a real story, by the way. I think I've told you this before, but for our listeners who have never heard this, one time, I was leaving my family's home down in Laredo, Texas.
Really?
I was leaving my family's home, and I still lived in Laredo, but I had my own apartment, etc. And as I was driving home, I was like maybe 2 blocks away from my apartment, and there was this random woman in the middle of the street, kind of like waving her arms right in front of me, like it wasn't right in front of my car, like
Oh.
half a block in front of me, and I slowed down because like obviously I'm not gonna fucking run her over. But
That's nice of you.
yeah, and then as soon as I slowed down because she was in front of me, I heard somebody try to unlock my door. And
Oh my
thankfully,
God.
I'm like a very paranoid driver. I'm always like checking my rearview mirrors, etc. But I always have my car locked. Obviously, it just locks automatically, but sometimes you'll forget and maybe it's unlocked. And somebody tried to like open my door to get in. And I
Oh,
freaked out
Jesus.
and
Wow.
I stepped on the gas to go real fast around her. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what was the outcome? I would have gotten carjacked, or maybe the person who tried to open the door probably had a gun and they probably
Yeah,
were
you never
like,
know.
yeah, give me your money, schmuck, or
Oh,
something.
schmuck. She's kind of old timey, but I like it.
Yeah, so that happened to me. So it wasn't necessarily a hitchhiking story, but it was somebody like, again, this is why I would never stop for anybody.
No,
Not even you.
I know.
Like if I were
No,
driving
what?
down, yeah, let's say you lived in the Bay Area and I was driving down Berkeley and I see you
Okay.
out there and you're like, oh, that's Luis, yoo-hoo, Luis. I'd be like, is that Tim? I would immediately lock my doors.
Oh, but you know it's me.
No, it could be a doppelganger,
A
a
doppelganger.
parallel universe Tim. I don't trust that.
You know what, listeners? If you want to learn more about doppelgangers, you should check out our doppelganger episode a few episodes back. It's
Yeah, a few episodes
one,
back.
It's one that you want to catch.
Yeah, it's one you want to catch because I had very low energy that day because I got some bad news that I had. Just kidding.
Oh my
Imagine.
God.
I'm joking, obviously, but
Yeah.
yeah, I had very low energy in that episode, but it was a fun discussion with Tim. Just giving you a heads up in case you decide like these motherfuckers constantly talk about that doppelganger episode. Let me check it out, and then you listen to it. And they're like, "What is wrong with Luis? Why does he sound so low energy this episode?"
They're like, why did they recommend this episode?
Why
This
can't
is
they
the
recommend-
worst one.
Exactly. Oh God.
Well, anyways, yeah. I think you should have picked me up. I would pick you up if I saw you.
That's not true. When I went to
Yeah,
visit you in your home where you currently live,
Yeah.
I took the train down to where you live, and I ended up like 2 stops away, like 30 miles away. I'm
Yeah.
like, Tim, I'm here. And you're like, figure it out, schmuck. And I was
No,
like,
I did
oh,
not
no.
say that.
No, not
Listeners-
again.
Listeners do not believe him.
No, that didn't happen. You were very kind. You and your partner decided to give me
Take you in.
take me in like a fucking wet dog.
Yeah, that's the language we used.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, well, I'll get back to reading.
Yes, please.
Okay. The Great Depression made hitchhiking a necessity, with millions wandering in search of work, and those still lucky enough to own cars felt obligated to help. But desperation breeds risk, and as the roads filled with the lost and unemployed, stories of roadside robberies and disappearances began to bubble just beneath the surface. The 1940s saw soldiers and students thumbing rides, giving the practice a brief veneer of safety, but the unease never truly vanished. By the 1950s, America was shifting. Cold War fears, a growing distrust of strangers, and a surge of crime films that turned the hitchhiker into a killer began to poison the practice. Movies like The Hitchhiker in 1953 painted a chilling portrait of the traveler as a predator, a stranger with secrets, lurking behind a friendly smile. Fear spreads faster than fact. By mid-century, 23 states had outlawed hitchhiking entirely, with many more towns passing local bans, not just out of precaution, but out of fear of what or who might be picked up next. Oh, I didn't know that was illegal.
Yeah, I was talking about this with Azia the other day, but
Wow.
in California, it is illegal for sure. It's not illegal in every state, but it is illegal in California for sure.
Oh, that's crazy. Wow. I did not know. I just kind of assumed it was like unsafe, but, you know, people just did what they did. I mean, I guess most people probably aren't getting turned in for it, I'm assuming, unless you accidentally
Yeah,
hitchhike
imagine like
with a
you get
cop
picked.
or something.
I imagine you get picked up because you're hitchhiking, and then they
Yeah.
drop you off in the appropriate town, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to report you for doing that to me, for picking me up. Like what?
How dare you do that? That was a test and you failed.
Mhm, exactly.
The 1960s brought a brief countercultural revival as rebels and runaways once again took to the highways, trying to reclaim a fading symbol of freedom. But even then, the roads felt different, emptier, more dangerous, haunted by the growing number of missing persons, roadside assaults, and urban legends. By the mid-1970s, the practice had all but died, buried under decades of fear, violence, and suspicion. Hitchhiking, once a hopeful gesture toward the horizon became a cautionary tale whispered across rest stops and roadside diners, where no one picks up strangers anymore, and everyone remembers the stories that made them stop. Ooh, so
Sam,
scary. Luis.
After this, are you going to go to Wawa's and try to see if you can pick up any hitchhikers?
Yeah, that's going to be my goal. I'm going to go pick up as many hitchhikers as I can and tell them to climb into my car.
Climb in the bed of the truck that you don't
Climb on
have.
in. There's plenty of room in my giant truck.
And then you take them and you're the psychotic killer.
Oh, thank you. Why can't they be the psychotic killers and I'm the helpless victim?
For this next part, we're going to be talking about 3 different stories of disappearances with hitchhikers, Tim.
Oh, no.
The first one is the murder of Peter Falconio. Now, to give you some context, Peter Falconio was a British tourist who disappeared in a remote part of the Stewart Highway near Barrow Creek in the Northern Territory of Australia.
Oh.
Why am I saying that like it's a fun fact?
Down under.
Some roads are long, some roads are lonely, but then there are roads that should never be traveled at all. It's July 14, 2001. A British couple, Peter Falconio and Joanne Lees, are cruising along the Stewart Highway in an orange combi van. They'd survived the chaos of Nepal, the sweltering heat of Cambodia, but it was this empty, endless highway in the Northern Territory that would become the most dangerous place they'd ever seen. They're heading north towards a place called the Devil's Marbles. The sun had just gone down. As they passed through a remote outpost near Barrow Creek, they noticed a white Toyota 4WD with a green canopy behind them. It's been tailing them for miles. The vehicle pulls up alongside and the driver, a lone man, weighs them down. He's shouting, motioning towards the back of their van. "Your exhaust," he says. "It's shooting sparks." Peter pulls over. He steps out, walks to the rear, and that is the last time Joanne Lee sees him. She hears it, one loud bang, and then he's at the window. Not Peter, the man. He's holding a silver handgun, calm, cold, and without a word he climbs into the van. He zip ties Joanne's wrists, tries to tape her mouth, tries to bind her feet, but she fights. She fights hard. He drags her out toward his truck, and there's a dog in the back she notices. She also sees something else. No sign of Peter. In that single moment, Joanne makes a choice. She runs into the bush, into the black, into the crushing silence of the outback. She hides, breath ragged, heart pounding, while the man searches for her with a flashlight. He passes her not once, not twice, 3 times. She doesn't move, doesn't make a sound, and when the footsteps finally vanish, she's alone, surrounded by darkness, with nowhere to go but forward. Hours later, covered in dust, scratched from the scrub, Joanne flags down a road train. It's just after midnight. The drivers take her to safety, but Peter Falconio is gone. What happened next became one of the most haunting mysteries in Australian history. Police would return to the scene. They'd find blood in the dirt, the combi hidden off-road, but no body, no gun, and no Peter. 4 Aboriginal trackers searched the area. They found only one set of footprints, Joanne's. The press circled like vultures. Doubts were cast, stories twisted, but deep in the evidence, a name surfaced. Bradley John Murdoch.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. A loner, a known criminal, and the man police would eventually charge. Joanne picked him from a photo lineup. His DNA was on the van's gear shift, on the cable ties, and on her shirt. The jury just took days. He was sentenced to life, but even now, the body of Peter Falconio has never been found. What happened out there on that endless stretch of road? Tim, did Peter ever have a chance? Was he gone before the man even came to the window? And who else might be buried in that dust of the highway? In 2005, while Murdoch's trial was still underway, a film hit theaters in Australia, Wolf Creek. Love that film, by the way. A brutal outback horror story marketed as based on true events. The court was so concerned it might sway the jury, it banned the film in the Northern Territory.
Wow.
Yeah. It's funny because I remember seeing that film with my friend Luis, and he hated that movie. And I was like, I fucking love this movie. There's something about it.
Why did he hate it so much?
I don't know. I think he was just tired of slasher slash. I think he was just tired of slashes at that point kind of.
Because of you, probably.
It was nothing paranormal, maybe. Yeah, it was not anything paranormal. It was just an old man who, I guess these people make a wrong turn. I guess the Australian version of Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which is, yeah.
I
mean, that would be scary.
Some movies in the US. I don't know if you've seen those either. But yeah, the film drew from various real-life horrors across Australia, including the backpack murders and the Falconio case. Joanne Lee stepped into the spotlight herself. She gave a paid interview with Martin Bashir for £50,000. Some said it was exploitation, but she said it was about keeping Peter's case alive. She later wrote a book called No Turning Back. She told her story in her own words. Then came the docudramas. Joanne Lee's Murder in the Outback aired in 2007. Joanne Froggatt played her.
Oh, I love Joanne Froggatt. She's in Downton Abbey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's such a good actress. Anyway, That's just my little addition to this.
Yes, stop interrupting with your stupid facts.
I'm sorry.
The case became kind of a cultural scar, etched into documentaries, podcasts, and courtroom transcripts. Case File, BBC, Channel 4, ITV. Everyone tried to piece together the nightmare. And yet one thing remains. Peter Falconio never came home. So, Tim.
Yes.
Allegedly, this all happened.
Sure. They say. But what do you think of the story of poor Peter Falconio? Do you think that he was either A, killed by that man, that Murdoch man, or since there was no quote unquote evidence of, his body or anything like that, do you think that maybe he slipped into the back rooms or into a parallel universe? Oh, I don't know why I'm coming up with that. Oh, that could be true. I mean, you never know, right? You never know. He could have been doing that. But no, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't have too much of a theory on it. It's not a whole lot of information to go on. But I mean, it does point again to the overall conclusion that hitchhiking can be dangerous, even in the outback where we think everyone's friendly. It's not true.
I don't think many people think the outback is friendly. Isn't that one of the most dangerous places in the world? Because it's so wild.
Yeah, well, the animals, yes, but I'm talking about the people. Australians are known for being very nice.
Are they? I think they are, right? I've never heard. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that obviously there's people that are evil and nice everywhere, but
no, I think none there.
Not in Australia. Okay, so you're saying that Peter Falconio was transported to a different universe.
Yes. Well, okay. Rupert Murdoch is not a great, I guess.
Wait, no. Rupert Murdoch is the Fox person. I'm talking about Bradley John Murdoch. He's the one who's accused.
But Rupert Murdoch is an Australian, and you were asking me if you thought any Australians were bad people, and I was saying I don't love Rupert Murdoch all that much.
Yeah, I don't think anybody does, except maybe I don't even think his children, right. Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Well, okay, so. There's no Scully or Mulder thing that you can say because this is based on reality. So you can't.
That's true.
You can't be like, oh no, Mulder,
no,
my hair is short and red, and I'm a scientist.
Is that how she talked? I don't remember Scully having that accent.
No, but you can't push back against the story because it did happen.
Oh, I can't?
No.
Well, maybe I want to.
Well, I mean, it says here, like I'm looking at the article that it's based off of. Well, not article, Wikipedia, whatever. But there was a murder trial. And the defense argued that during the trial that the DNA match could have been due to an accidental blood transfer in the Alice Springs Red Rooster restaurant prior to the alleged offense. Okay, that's really stretching it.
Yeah, what happens at this Red Rooster restaurant? They're like all chopping things up with their own hands.
I know, like how did blood end up there?
Yeah.
And it says here that apparently they did stop at the same restaurant the same. Maybe he was following them. And that's why they were able to be there. But anyway, it says here that they claimed they had also seen Falconio at a petrol station 1 week after he went missing.
I love it.
Here.
Petrol station. That just means gas station.
Yeah. And on December 13, 2005, he was found guilty by a jury and was sentenced to life imprisonment with non-parole period of 28 years.
Wow. Crazy.
So they found him guilty. Are you going to push back and say that it's not true?
No, I'm not. They found him guilty, so that's what they found. Who knows?
Okay.
Well,
cool. Before we move on to the next story, a quick break.
Support for this podcast comes from Glildo the Artisan Glass Dildo, changing the way we think about intimacy and home decor.
Meticulously handcrafted by questionable European artisans, each Glildo is a celebration of form, function, and the erotic thrill of wondering, can I actually put this inside me?
The answer is yes. Yes, you can.
Glildo's ultra-smooth, non-porous surface means it's easy to clean, body-safe, and glides in like a well-written apology.
I used to think that my orgasms were fine, like, you know, me. But after I met Glildo, now my orgasms have a narrative arc of their own. It's like therapy, but backwards with more screaming.
From a scientific standpoint, the density of borosilicate glass allows for precision pressure right against the G-spot or prostate. And with temperature play, you're not just having sex, you are conducting an experiment. And baby, I publish results.
Now, some people still use FlexiDong, which is fine if you like your toys to look like a haunted pool noodle. We get it. You want something floppy, bendy, uncertain, like your last situationship. But Glildo is different. It's firm, it's clear, it knows what it wants. Listeners can get 10% off their Glildo and a complimentary silk polishing cloth because nothing says self-care like buffing your dildo while listening to Chopin.
Not your grandmother's Cristal. Unless she's cool as hell.
This next story is from this YouTube video called, quote, The Strange Disappearance of Mitch Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit, unquote, from Dark Curiosities. The link to their YouTube channel will be linked in the show notes. In the quiet hills of New York's Finger Lakes, nestled among the winding forest roads and sleepy towns, lies Watkins Glen, a name most remember for its legendary racing circuit and a music festival that once shook the earth. But some of us remember it for something else entirely, something darker, something lost. It was the summer of 1973. Summer Jam, a counterculture mecca that drew nearly 600,000 souls into the woods. People came for the music, the Grateful Dead, the Allman Brothers, the band. Not all of them made it back out. Two of those souls were Mitch Weiser and Bonnie Bickwit. Mitch was 16, a sweet kid, dreamy, loved photography, baseball, and had a mutt named Casey Jones, named after his favorite Dead song. Bonnie was 15, brilliant, kind. That kind of teenage girl who talked about freedom like it was a fire burning just behind her ribcage. She didn't belong in a quiet neighborhood or a neat little life. She wanted more, and Mitch wanted to go with her. They were supposed to take a bus, but at some point, they didn't. On July 27th, the two were seen by a pickup truck driver standing on the side of Highway 97, holding sleeping bags and a cardboard sign that read, Watkins Glen. That was the last time anyone confirmed seeing them alive. The weekend came and went. The music played. The crowds dispersed. Mitch and Bonnie never came home. Their parents called. They begged. They drove for hours, screaming their children's names into the deep canyons and gorges around the festival site. But the police said they were just runaways. Teenagers, probably off on some drug-fueled escapade. They ignored the families. And while the Weisers and Bickwits tore up back roads and hung flyers on telephone poles, nobody was looking for them, not officially. By the time the authorities took the case seriously, it was already too late. Years passed. Rumors surfaced. One woman claimed, decades later, that her own father, a violent predator, had murdered them and buried the bodies. Police dug up her family's cottage. They brought in cadaver dogs, sonar, even sifted through a decommissioned power plant. But they found nothing. Then there was Alan Smith, a man who swore he hitched a ride with Mitch and Bonnie in a Volkswagen van. Said Bonnie slipped and fell into a river. Said Mitch jumped in after her. Said they were swept away. And the driver? He was going to call the cops from a gas station. But did he? There was no body, no report, no follow-up. Just a man with a memory, and a story too old to verify. Others believe they were victims of a serial killer, a predator who stalked New York's back roads in the early 1970s. His name, Robert G., and he was active exactly when Mitch and Bonnie vanished. But no charges were filed. No evidence ever linked him. Just a name, just a ghost. 50 years later, and still nothing. No bones, no closure, only that aching silence that follows the missing. A plaque now stands where Mitch went to high school. Gray granite, chiseled and raw. It reads, Mitch Weiser, Bonnie Bickwit, we still miss you. They were just two kids chasing freedom, hitchhiking through the Catskills under a hot July sun. No cell phones, no GPS, just music in their heads and trust in their hearts. But sometimes, the road takes more than you offer.
Hey, you headed to Watkins Glen?
So, Tim, now that you've read the story, will you please admit to our listeners that you are Robert G? You are the killer.
What? Hey, I'm not Robert G. I am not. No, I will not admit that because it's not the case. My name is not Robert, and I have no G in my name.
Oh, shut your mouth.
Oh, give me a
what
break.
do you think?
You're probably Robert G.
I am Robert G. But what do you think actually happened to them? Like, what are your own thoughts?
Well, I mean, it was back then. Like, a lot could have happened. They could have been on a drug-fueled rampage. You know what I mean?
Rampage? I like how you're just adding words, like adding something to their characters. Like, they went on a drug rage. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's what the cops said. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, anything could have happened to them back then, right? Don't you feel like back then anything could happen to anyone at any time,
well,
especially with like no phones, right?
Well, yes, that plus also the police not even holding themselves accountable. Like, they didn't even take this case seriously when they brought it up.
I know. It's like every police officer in every like horror movie being like,
we've talked
they
about
were probably shopping and smoking dope.
1940s newspaper writer voice.
Yeah, so they were smoking dope and a lot of it.
And the other part that I thought was kind of like a little like, okay, girl, calm down. It's like this woman who claims that her father was the killer. And again, they were not able to prove any of this. So it's just like, girl, you're doing this for attention. Like, shut up. Like, stop trying to.
Yeah, but you just know that there's going to be people like that, right? In these towns. I just feel like there's always people that just want like their little 15 minutes of fame. And they're like, it's my dad who did it. Yeah.
And he's no longer alive to defend himself.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And the last thing I was going to mention was like that guy who said that coincidentally, he was the guy who gave both, Bonnie and Mitch a ride, and that she fell off of the van. Is that what he said? That she fell off the van and went into a river, like a piece of logwood or whatever.
Oh,
and
shit. fell out of the van and rolled into the river and tumbled away, and that's it.
And then Mitch went in to save her, and they both disappeared. And then her carcass was found later with a beaver munching on her. Just kidding.
Oh my god!
I think that in an alternate universe.
Yes. Oh wow.
No, sorry, not an alternate.
Again.
No, not alternate universe. I think what ended up happening was, picture it, Tim.
Okay.
It is 1973.
73. The year that the Watergate scandal was in full swing.
Okay, no. That's not tied at all to this.
Oh, I know it's not related. I'm just giving context, you know.
We were driving, you and I are reincarnated versions of somebody. You and I were driving our little combi van or whatever.
Yeah, our combi van. That's my favorite car.
It was down in the Finger Lakes part of central New York or wherever that happened.
Yes.
And then we see two hitchhikers, and it's Bonnie and Mitch.
Oh, Bonnie and Mitch.
And I'm like, look, there's hitchhikers.
And I go, oh wow, there they are. Lewis.
Yeah, Tom and Louis. Well, that's too close to Louise.
Lululemon.
Lulu. Hey, Tom, there's two hitchhikers.
Lulu.
What do you say? Do you want to pick them up?
Yeah, sure. It's super safe, I feel like, overall. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they stopped and they honked like, hey, get in. And then they both
Hop in.
And then one of them, Mitch, took out a gun and is like, give us your fucking van and back the fuck up. And they took our van and they were like, now we can escape to Mexico and be together without any judgment. And now
judgment of our lifestyle.
Yeah. And then they went down to Mexico. So I think they're still alive.
Well, what are they escaping judgment for? Are they cousins?
They were cousins. They were kissing cousins.
Ew, gross.
Oh, why are we saying that about these missing couple? Sorry.
Oh, well, I mean, it was a long time ago.
That's what ended up happening, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that happened too. Exactly like we described it.
Yes. R.I.P. Mitch and Bonnie.
Yeah. R.I.P.
Yes.
Yeah. Bonnie and Clyde.
For this last story, it's a little different from the other ones, Tim. You know how earlier I was mentioning there's a twist or there's a new story. Anyway, the story is about a man named William Cockeye Cook. In this story, he was the hitchhiker from hell.
Oh, no. The hitchhiker from hell?
Sometimes a hitchhiker disappears into the night. Other times, it's the driver who never makes it home. But once in a while, just once in a generation, someone walks in the line between drifter and devil. But in the winter of 1951, that someone was William Cockeyed Cook.
Allegedly.
His real name barely matters now, Tim. He was known for the way his eye never quite looked at you, but through you.
Oh.
A glassy, twisted stare that made folks uneasy. Adults crossed the street to avoid him. And when his mother died and his father locked him and his 7 siblings in an abandoned mine shaft, well, something inside William Cook died too.
Well, that makes sense because he's trapped in a mine shaft.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's like a Batman origin story type thing.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, you were locked in a mine shaft when you were a kid, famously.
Yeah, I was. God. I was like baby Jessica, the girl who fell in the well.
Yeah, except yours was way deeper. It was like practically by the Earth's core.
Yeah, and the people who had put me there were the reporters.
Yeah. They were like, get him down there.
Just get him down there. We hate this guy.
Yeah. We crossed the street to avoid him.
Exactly. By the time he was 10, he was already a ward of the state. By 21, he'd done a stretch in the Missouri State Penitentiary and told his estranged father he planned to live by the gun and roam.
Oh, wow. That's the life. No, I'm just kidding.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he did.
Oh.
He started in Texas. A mechanic picked him up like a good Samaritan. Cook repaid him by shoving a gun in his face and logging him in the trunk.
Ouch.
That man lived. Barely.
Oof.
But the Moser family, they weren't so lucky. Carl Moser, his wife Thelma, and their 3 young children, Ronald, age 7, Gary, aged 5, and Pamela Sue, just 3 years old, were driving through Oklahoma, bound for a new life in New Mexico. They saw a young man thumbing a ride on the side of the road, disheveled, cold, and alone. They pulled over, and they let him in. His name was Tim.
No.
Cook directed them back towards Joplin, Missouri, his old stomping grounds, at gunpoint. He played house guest from hell while the family smiled, terrified, trying to keep the children calm. On the third day, he led them into the woods. He murdered them all, even the family dog, and dumped their bodies into a lonely well near Joplin, where the remains would rot in the cold earth, forever together, forever forgotten. But Cook wasn't done, Tim. He headed west. Outside Blythe, California, he kidnapped a deputy sheriff, held a gun to his back, and forced him to drive. But he spared the man's life. He said the deputy's wife had once been kind to him, the one who'd never treated him like a real... Wait. I was going to say the one who never treated him like a real person.
The only one who had ever.
I know, but I said the one who never. Like, wouldn't that
the
mean
one who
that you would
has
kill?
never treated him like a real person?
Exactly.
He liked her.
Yeah, the one who'd ever treated him like a real person. Funny, isn't it? What a little kindness can buy you when you're dealing with a monster like Tim.
It's not that funny.
Well, his final kill was in Arizona. A salesman from Seattle named Robert Dewey, shot in the head, dumped like garbage on the roadside, just another body in the dust.
Oh,
oof, that's harsh.
Yikes.
Cook tried to run, forced 2 hunters to smuggle him into Mexico, but in a sleepy little fishing town called Santa Rosalie, fate caught up with him. A police chief recognized that lazy eye, snatched the gun from his belt while Cook blinked, and just like that, the nightmare was over. Cook was extradited, tried, convicted, not allegedly. He was sentenced to 300 years for the Moser family murders, and then death in California for killing Dewey. On December 12, 1952, the year Tim was born, in the gas chamber at San Quentin, the man with a crooked eye breathed his last breath. He was 23. No. He was only 23.
Wow. And isn't your name on Grindr the man with the crooked eye?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The following year, Hollywood released The Hitchhiker, a film based on Cook's killing spree. It was one of the first ever made about real-life murderer while the blood was still fresh on the pavement. But the movie's end, credits rolled, and the road? Well, the road keeps going, Tim. So next time you see someone on the shoulder with their thumb out, ask yourself, Tim, do they need help? Or are you about to disappear?
Oh, that's the real question.
Oh, Tim, what do you think of this story?
I mean, it's pretty scary. I don't know. I feel like this guy Cook sounds like a pretty scary character. And I mean, this is like a real story, right? So
they're all real stories.
Yeah. I know, but I mean, some of them had a little bit more mystery to them, but this one feels pretty like cut and dry.
Yeah, pretty cut and dry. Yeah, the first one you had the story about Peter Falconio who disappeared and you don't know what happened to him because they never found a body. And then you had Bonnie and Mitch who, again, disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to them. There was no conclusive evidence of anything. But this one is like pretty straightforward. Like, no, this happened. This shot this family, etc., etc. But so Tim, what do you think of this story? Like, overall, like, you know, we hear the stories about the hitchhikers are usually the one that goes missing, right? Like in the case for Bonnie and Mitch. And then Peter Falconio, obviously he wasn't hitchhiking himself, but they did have like a road disappearance type story. But for this one, it turns out that the hitchhiker themselves is the actual
killer. That's right. It flips it around. You just never know who is the actual killer and who's the, you know, victim, I guess, in the hitchhiker scenario. Hence why we don't do it anymore. But yeah, I mean, that's the scary idea, right? Is like if you pick someone up. I mean, maybe it's more scary. Well, no, I don't know. Is it more scary to be the person who's in the car trapped with them while they're driving? Yeah, I guess that is probably worse. I was thinking maybe they're behind you with like some wire and they're gonna like, you know, do a Michael Myers on you or something.
Yeah, like if I were in that scenario, I'm trying to think here. It's like we think about Friday the 13th. Remember when what's her name? Annie goes hitchhiking and she gets picked up by somebody. Well, if you've seen the movie, if not, somebody picks up Annie as she's hitchhiking to Camp Crystal Lake. And it's like the other person just hits the gas pedal and drives fast. And she's like, you missed my exit over there. So I'm like, now you,
I think you better
hitchhiker.
stop.
Yeah, I think you better stop, says the hitchhiker, Annie. And then they just open the door and then jump out. But like at that point, you are already in a very desperate situation where it's like, I'm not controlling the speed. I don't know where the hell they're taking me.
That's the thing.
You're very vulnerable.
So I guess that's worse.
But on the other hand, if you are the driver and you are, in this case, the victim, somebody could just have a gun to the back of your head because they're in the back seat or next to you. And it's kind of like, okay, if I like try to jump out, they're going to shoot me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I just feel like you're screwed either way.
Yeah.
And we're trying to tell you listeners, because we know you guys, we know how you are.
We do.
Weird, like us.
You guys are weirdos. Just admit it.
You're weirdo, because if you listen to this podcast, you are definitely weird, and that's a compliment.
That's a compliment. That's a good thing to be.
Don't ever get in a vehicle, please. Ever.
At all. Ever.
Any vehicle.
Don't drive. Don't ride a plane. Don't go on a train.
Yeah, exactly. No, but really, like, don't ever go hitchhiking, because I know some of you, you seem like the type.
Yeah, you do, honestly. We know you guys as user profiles. We know your music tastes.
We know. We got stats. You, that one person in Germany, we know who you are.
And you people in Greece, we know who you are as well.
We know who you are too.
Yeah.
Tim, would you be open, after listening to these 3 stories, would you be open to the idea of hitchhiking? Like when you come visit me in the summer, let's say you show up during the summer, right?
I'm with you.
And you're both like, hey, Luis, what should we do? And I'm like, I rented this car. And then I just drive us to the middle of, I take you to Pacifica, this small town outside of San Francisco. And then I just dump you guys there and I take off home.
Oh, what? Why would you do that?
How would you get home? And I take your phones too.
Oh, man. Okay. Well,
would you be open to the idea of hitchhiking?
No, I wouldn't. I would try to call, I would try to find a taxi cab service that has like a phone number or something, like in the old days.
I'm dropping you off in the middle of nowhere where only cars pass, and there's no gas stations, there's no restaurants, there's nothing for at least like 10 miles each way.
Guess we would walk. I would be really worried about doing a hitchhiking, but if I was going to do it, I think I would do it with like a truck. You know what I mean? Like a truck that's kind of going across the country, because I feel like they're pretty like okay usually, right? The truckers.
No, that's where they store your body in freezers because they have the space.
Well, what if it's like a Coca-Cola truck? They're not gonna
you mean
that.
like a truck driver, like one of those tractor trailers or whatever.
Exactly,
not tractor trailers, that's a farming thing. Whatever.
Okay, not exactly,
but I know what you mean. One of those NAFTA trucks.
Yeah, like a reputable company. Yeah. Big one, and they stop, and I say, oh, I'm thumbing for a hitch.
Isn't that how we ran into Large Marge?
That is how we ran into her in the earlier bit of this episode.
Yeah.
And it was scary.
So that's how you would get home.
What else can I do? You put baby in a corner.
And then you come back to my apartment and you're like, Louise, what's wrong with you? And I'm
Thanks
like,
a lot.
Thanks a lot, buddy. And I'm like, got you.
You just go, got you.
So Tim,
and
what do you
wait,
think?
I have to interrupt you.
Yes,
you
go
just think
ahead.
that it would end there, and then the kind of the circle of the screen would just close in around your head, and you would just wink at the camera, and then it would say the end?
No. I say, got you. And then you would put your hand on your hips, and you'd be shaking your head, and then I'd be like putting my hands up in the air, and we do like a freeze frame, and then these random credits would go
and then
up.
The credits would roll like it's an 80s sitcom.
Just do that right there, and
now
then
the world don't move to the beat of just one drum.
So what were you gonna say?
That was it.
Oh, okay. What did you think of the overall episode? The idea of hitchhiking in general. What advice would you give to our listeners about hitchhiking?
Would say, I'm getting to it. I would say, go hitchhiking, listeners. Do it. Back to you,
You know what?
Luis.
Just ignore everything we just said. Ignore the stories. Just go out there and go hitchhike. Explore the world.
Explore the world. Most people are trustworthy.
So, Tim, we've come to the end of the episode. Before we move on to other, housekeeping items, I want to thank Asia for giving us her story and telling us a little bit more about her wild adventures as hitchhiking. If you have any questions for Asia, feel free to message us on our Instagram or email us at ittybittyhorror@gmail.com. And of course, I'll post her responses on our social media pages. Tim, what are we discussing next week?
Well, Luis, next week, according to this poll we ran on Instagram, most people want us to talk about the monstrous sea creatures like, the kraken, giant squids, the megalodon, things like that. So the poll doesn't lie.
Yeah, people want that. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to check out our previous episodes like the Haunted Bay Area Rentals, where I just re-edited that episode, so feel free to listen to the new version. The Bermuda Triangle, La Santa Muerte, Doppelgangers, and more.
What's La Santa Muerte?
Oh, well, if you would listen to the damn episode, I'm just kidding. It's I'm kidding. It's like, in Mexico, there are, people pray to saints, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Santa.
Yeah, Santa, exactly. And this new trend, or this, I guess it became popular, of like this skeleton that is dressed almost like, think of it like praying to death. Like,
it's
death.
like voodoo. That's like voodoo.
Almost, except that you ask for things like somewhat selfishly, like, I want to become rich, I want to blah, blah, blah. But other times it's like, please, I'll pray to La Santa Muerte if you could like help my, family get through, my so-and-so get through cancer, like let them survive or whatever. So you're kind of like praying to a specific saint for something that is not selfish, but somewhat. And then also, I don't know, I feel like our listeners are like, that's not what that is. Well, guess what, listeners? I did my research and I was probably wrong, but go check out episode 11, La Santa Muerte.
Yes, episode 11, which I apparently didn't catch, even though I usually listen to our episodes.
We really appreciate a 5-star rating wherever you listen to our podcast. If you listen to us on Spotify, on Apple, on Tim Mobile, on anywhere, please give us a rating of 5 stars, preferably, because if you give us a 1 rating, then obviously we get sent to the back of the line.
Yeah, and that's not fun. I mean, it's nice to get ratings at all. I mean, that's a good thing.
That makes it sound so fucking desperate. Please give us any ratings, even if it's 1 star. Oh, please, no, not 1 star.
We'll take it. No, listeners, we won't take it. Please give us 5 stars. We're very desperate and we're very emotional. And even just a 4-star rating will send us off the deep end.
Yes, exactly. And as you can listen to, like, we have sponsors now. A fake sponsor,
we do.
But still.
Yeah, they're fake. They're not, no one's paying us and it's not real. But
yeah, nobody's paying us, so we are selling glass dildos. Like, I'm making them in the basement of my apartment. I'm going there and I'm making them, like, I'm just getting a bunch of glass and just like, just making them myself. And Tim is doing the marketing.
Right.
So
I'm good at that.
Feel free to, text or email us at ittybittyhorror@gmail.com with your, your favorite color, and we'll ship one to you.
Yeah, it'll be great. And Luis is working really hard in that shared room of his apartment complex. It's nice that they were letting you just manufacture those there.
Oh, yeah. They're very kind.
Yeah, that was sweet of them. And I guess when they come downstairs, they just look away, or?
Yeah, they don't care.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Well,
what do you say to them?
I say nothing.
Okay.
Well, listeners, thanks once again. And remember, even the smallest chills can linger long after the story's end. Tim, you want me to mail you a glass dildo?
I'm going to pass on that one. But listeners, write in if you would like that.